Welcome to Kangaroost, the podcast. Rachel, it is great to see you. In my notes for today, you wrote down Rockstar Agent Extraordinaire. We've got a special episode today.
We do. We have Jackie Hogencamp with us today.
Dude, thanks for inviting me, you guys. I'm so excited. That is me again. I don't know how to say that, guys. I don't know what else to do.
It's fine. We're leaving it in there. This is about the life of a realtor. And listen, if there's anything more on brand, it's the dinging that won't stop. The notifications.
Really, I'm like seriously trying to take it off and just remove it from my computer. So I do apologize.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Jackie is with Parks here she's in Murfreesboro, but in the Parks, ecosphere here in Nashville. And so we're glad to have her. She's going to tell us all sorts of smart things today because that's who she is.
I'm going to do my best, you guys. I'll at least be entertained. I can promise that.
Hey, well, we
so
love that.
Every episode we start off with a question of the day. Today, Rachel, what's our question?
Today it is, if you were going to buy a second home, where would it be and why? So since Jackie is our guest, we'll let her go first.
Okay. Well, that's a really easy question because it's absolutely New York City. It's been my dream since I was 7 years old to live in New York. I wanted to go to college there, and it didn't happen for me. So now as a grown woman, I've decided that is my goal. I'm going to buy an apartment in New York, and that's where I'd like to retire one day. And at some point, I would love to have my career leveraged to the point where I can maybe stay there like half the year, even before retirement. So we're actually actively living there right now. Yeah.
What part of New York?
Right now, we're looking around 14th and Union. I'd always really wanted to be in Soho. That's where I kind of thought I wanted to be. But then I kind of fell in love with that area because you can easily access so many of the different areas. And just to be honest with you, I've learned that in the more popular areas, the monthly fees are a lot more expensive. Sure. So I'm trying to be somewhat smart about my second home. So yeah, New York for me. What about you guys?
I just need your apartment to be able to have a visitor on occasion.
It shall. It's going to definitely have visitor passes to guests. And we can trade. See, you guys tell me where your fantastic houses are going to be, and we'll just trade time. It'll be like a timeshare.
That's right. Andrew.
I really would like a lake house right about now. I don't have any specifics on which lake, but I love the water. And so if I can wake up with a sunrise glistening over some glassy water with a cup of coffee in my hand, I think that's pretty remarkable. So that's where I would go.
I would go to the beach. No one is shocked by that answer. And the mountains. Like I'm going to go double dip, and I want a house I can go ski at, and then I want to go sit in the sunshine. I want a private beach. I'm really high maintenance. I mean, I have a list of qualifications. Like I don't want to see anyone else. I want to sit in the sand with only the people I want to be around. So, you should go to Big Sur or somewhere like that. Because, have you ever driven up 1A where like the beach is right here in the Pacific Ocean, and then you're staring at these gorgeous mountains, and it's so perfect and amazing.
That's a great call. Tahoe. Go for Tahoe.
That's it, Rachel. Please. I'm not urging you because I've never been there and want to go there or anything and want somewhere to stay. Like that's where you should do it. Okay. Well, I'll get to work on that. And like by work, I mean, yes. Maybe if only self-serving. That's fine. I mean, I feel the same way about her apartment. We also have a challenge of the week to our realtor friends. Write down 3 goals that you want to hit in Q4. We are a big believer in writing things down. Not that it makes it happen, but it sort of commits it when you write it down. And so write them down. If you share them, let us know. We'd like to cheer you on. Jackie, we have known each other half a decade. Who would have thought when I met Jackie that I would still buy one of her houses, but not the one that I built with her. So the one that she built with me, by the way, to this day, still one of my favorite homes of all time. But what Rachel and I quickly realized is that we may have only known each other for 5 years, but we're definitely sisters in some shape, form, or fashion because we love everything black and we love the exact same lighting and the exact same plumbing. And it was actually, we had a phenomenal experience together. It just, unfortunately, the timing didn't line up for it to consummate fully. So
I know, but then I bought one of your houses anyway, so it worked out. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. So today's going to be all about you. So tell us how you got into real estate. Like, what was the draw? How'd you end up where you are now?
So really funny story. I was actually a bartender because I was a single mother with 3 kids finishing college and trying to start my MBA. And I was bartending at a bar where all of the contractors and builders and lenders and realtors hung out. And I'd heard so many times, oh my gosh, you'd be so good in real estate because you know how to talk to people. You're a counselor, you know, you're outgoing. I love to dress up. I'm very dramatic and flary in my fashion. And so, actually, that's exactly how it started. It was nothing I ever considered. I went to college for graphic design. I was going to work on an MBA. I wanted to be a writer my whole life, but then I had kids and was like, I really don't want to be poor forever. So I ended up going into real estate, and in all my infinite wisdom, I did that in April of 2007, which was pretty devastating. I went from making a really good living as a bartender to being flat busted. But thankfully, I was smart enough to start my career with Parks, and they have a phenomenal agent development program. And Bob Parks himself was actually kind of my biggest cheerleader and mentor. And he pushed me not only to get into real estate during the downturn, but he made me quit my job as a bartender, which was my only source of income as a single mother with 3 kids with no family support and no child support. And I did it. And I fell flat on my face that first year. I'm not going to lie. I did really well, I guess, and as one could during the downturn, but it was definitely scary. But he taught me something valuable, which was, you know, this is the time to build your systems and learn how to be really good at your craft while you're not really selling that much. You build all these things. So I took that time, did that. And by the time the market turned around, it turned out really well for me because I ended up being one of the top producing agents consistently throughout my career. And I really don't know that I would have been able to say that if I had started at any other firm. So I'm definitely not trying to recruit anybody. I don't get paid to recruit for Parks. I'm just saying that was my draw. As everybody just said, I'd be good at it. And I got fortunate enough that even with the timing, I linked up with some good people. Yeah.
I think you found a little niche though, and you work with a lot of builders. So tell us a little bit about that and how you got into it and what the favorite part is for you. I kind of think I know these answers, but for Andrew's sake and everyone else.
Yeah, it's sort of funny because whenever I got into real estate and it tanked, I promptly noticed it was the new construction agents that were really being hit the hardest. And I was like, I'm never going to do that. I don't want to do that. And then 15 years later, 15 years and 15 builders later, I am designing and building houses with builders. So yeah, I love it because of the design aspect, just to be honest with you, because it's always been the fun part for me. I love making pretty things together. I love giving people ideas. But, you know, I don't think I ever would have been just a designer per se, probably because of the money for one, but just I actually still enjoy the selling part too and the marketing part. And so that was the draw for me really is every day's different. And, you know, one day you might be building a house and the next day you're designing a house. The next day you're selling a house. There's so many different hats. And I am very ADHD. So it's a great fit for me because I can just put on a new hat every day.
It seems like you're a one-stop shop for sure. So you can, if I'm looking to build, I'm coming to you to say, is the wall in the right place? And you're going to say, here are the colors you need and here are the fixtures you need. Like you could really, and then also sell the house to me, right? Like you could do it all. I feel like that's taxing.
Yeah, she does it all. She
Yeah.
can't even hang drywall. She's really talented. She won't tell you, but she can.
So I'm actually getting my general contractor's license because I do know a lot of the answers, but I have to be very careful about the answers that I give because I don't have that license. So I will always defer to my builders to answer the build questions. But I can definitely help and make people feel more comfortable. And, you know, I think that's a really good point you guys make. Maybe that's why I got into doing it all because I love being able to comfort people too, because it is a hard process. It's scary, right? Building a house is not easy.
Do you have a favorite aspect of that? Is it, you know, other than comforting the people you're working with, like what really draws you into this?
What really draws me into honestly, watching something come out of nothing. I think that the process to me is gorgeous. I'm actually getting my blasting license as well. I'd like to start a utility and excavating company next year. That's my goal, actually. You talk about goals. I actually do my Ninja 9 and write my goals down every day. And my goal right now is I will have my blasting license by January 1, 2023. watching that dirt rise, if you've ever watched them blast in development, guys, watching that dirt lift and fall and then creating something from that, there's just something so beautiful about it. And I think that that's really what drew me in, is being able to start and finish. It's been really hard the last couple of years, though, you guys, with supply chain issues and labor issues, and taking 6 months to get windows in and 6 months to get cabinets built. And, it could take 16 months sometimes to build a house right now. And so it's not for the faint of heart. And I would definitely tell any agent considering going into new construction to sit down and have a very long conversation with themselves about just how much stress they're willing to take on in their life right now. And I probably wouldn't do it right now. I might give it another year or two. But I'm fortunate enough that I had that base before all of the post-COVID problems hit. So it's not been as hard for me as I think it has been for some of the other agents that have gotten into it since then. So
you hit on something else too. It's working with people you trust. I know you and I have had side conversations about this very thing. It's, if you're a realtor looking to partner with a builder, go through an interview process with that builder to make sure that you guys are going to be on the same page. Otherwise, your life's going to be real stressful and miserable on top of it, because you're the person that the client is going to call. They're not calling the builder. They're going to call you, right? Yeah. So what are some things you'd caution someone looking to get into? Like you said, think real long and hard, but also when you're considering working with the builder, what are some things you'd ask yourself?
Well, I think that's interesting because, in the beginning, I was willing to take any builder. I didn't care. I just was hungry. And I actually ended up working for a couple, and we should never have worked together. We did not work well together, but I was a hard worker and I produced. So they didn't fire me, and I needed the money, so I couldn't fire them. So I think that the first thing I would ask myself is, am I ready to kind of put all my eggs in this basket? Because when you first become a new construction agent for a builder, especially if it's a smaller builder, that's not a big national company that's making a ton of money, they're really depending on you to sell those, 10 houses a year. Make sure that you actually feel like you can work with that builder and it's a mutually respectful situation. And you're not, putting yourself in a situation where every day it's going to be an uphill battle, because new construction absolutely will take over your life, because it's not like a normal transaction of resale where you write the contract and you go through the home inspection and the appraisal. Like, you're married to that person for 6 months to a year at this point, maybe even longer. So I would say, go through the interview process and remember that it's not just that you're being interviewed. You've been brought to the table because that builder either knows something about you, has been told something about you, saw you on social media, wanted to talk to you. So you've kind of already gotten in the door. Find out what they have to offer you back and remember your value. Because I've known a lot of agents who burn out in new construction simply because they took on a builder that was not a good fit for them or that really required too much of them, and they were both set up for failure. So just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. That's what I would caution anyone to remember.
That's good advice in general, but yes, specifically for this.
How have you seen the industry change over the last 15 years or so that you've been doing this? I mean, you do a lot of different aspects of this. And so how have you seen it change? So,
in the last 15 years is really interesting because that would take us from 7 to now. Yeah. And so in 7 was when it really started to go down. And then 08 to 10 was really the worst, you guys. It really was. I mean, if you were selling something, it was typically going to be a foreclosure or a short sale or something of that nature. Investors grabbing up stuff. It was really hard. And then it started to uptick and we started coming out of that U-curve, coming out of the belly of the pit. And it went, slow for a while. And then the last couple of years, as we all know, it just went purely insane. Like nobody could keep up with anything about a year before COVID, really. And then I think all of us were scared COVID was going to hit us in one way, but at least here in Tennessee, I know that in some areas it's probably not the same, but everyone decided to come to Nashville, in the Nashville area for some reason from every state.
Because it's awesome.
It's amazing. And we do not have a state income tax, and our taxes are phenomenal and our prices are phenomenal. And from what I'm now understanding, the level of our education in our public schools and everything, like especially people coming out like California, New York, Illinois, Arizona have been the 4 that I've heard the most from. it's just like night and day, and they love it so much here. So, I've seen it shift through a million different things, and now we're in this weird place. Everybody's got their different name for it. I'm calling it a correction, a mild correction. I'm not going to pretend I came up with that. That came straight from Bob Parks's mouth yesterday. But, we have lots of town hall meetings with all the different professionals. We have so many different parts of our company, and it's a much needed correction, you guys. Like, it should never have been what it was in the last year. You should not have 19 offers on a house within 24 hours of listing it and sell it for $80,000 over list when it was really only worth $320,000. But people were desperate to be here for their own reasons, and they were able to cash in at these crazy, amazing prices. So they had that superfluous, money to go over. I'm not going to lie and say it didn't benefit me and all the people in my industry. It definitely did, but it also hurt a lot of us mentally because it was hurting a lot of our clients mentally. It was so taxing on everyone, and so it's changed a lot, and we're correcting, and you are going to start seeing things like, adjustable rate mortgages again, which is such a nasty, dirty word from the subprime fallout, but it's really not anymore. It's because it's structured in a completely different way. The subprime fallout happened because you could get a loan with no job and just state your income and supply nothing for it. I was a single mother as a bartender in 2006. It showed that I was making $12,000 a year in the IRS. That's all I made as a bartender ever was $12,000 a year. But I could walk up and get a $400,000 house. Like, it shouldn't have even been a possibility. So, and we had the job, we had a lot of job loss back then too. We're not seeing that now. So, I'm so sick of the negative, scared, it's a recession, the market's going to crash. It's not what we're seeing. Does it take me maybe 30 days to sell a house these days? Yeah, but is that unhealthy? No. Am I still able to get a great price for it and the people are happy and getting equity out? Absolutely. Rates are going down, so we're seeing those uptick a little bit. It's still not as low as people would like, which I find somewhat comical because, 5.5% is really not bad, y'all. I mean, when our parents bought houses, I've heard stories of 21% interest rates, 17% interest rates. We're talking about 5%, 5.5% on your biggest investment of your life. And it's just not, I don't know. I think we have to reprogram. I think that people got so used to those 3% interest rates, which was just such a completely different mindset now. And now they're in their head, they're stuck on, oh my gosh, it's almost doubled. But there's a lot more to take into consideration too. As the rates went up, the demand and the pricing went down as well. So you're kind of picking up a little bit there. You're also seeing a lot more people get creative and offer incentives to maybe buy down your rate for you or pay your closing costs, which had completely fallen by the wayside there for a long time. There were no incentives. Don't even ask for, a mint on your way out the door. It's not happening. But it's, so yeah, I think that's a really long-winded answer to your question. Sorry about that. But I think that's kind of the big differences now.
You said that in 07, 08, a bunch of investors started buying homes up after the recession. Do you see that happening now with all these cash offers that they're investors? And so then what should we expect in the next 4, 5, 6 years?
Yeah, so I think the biggest difference that I'm seeing anyway right now is during the downturn, the investors I'm speaking of were primarily private and smaller investors that I saw grabbing up because, for example, I listed a condo a few months ago that I'd sold to an investor in 2008 for $80,000, and I sold it this time for $280,000. So it's $200,000, in 14 years? But those were smart people who had just been pigeonholing money away. And as soon as they saw it, they swooped in and started buying up a lot of foreclosures and short sales and things of that nature. And then while everything was good, what you saw were all the Main Street renewals and the huge hedge funds coming in. And I mean, for a while there, you guys, if you listed anything in Rutherford County for under $350, you'd have 10 offers from investors before they ever even saw it. You know what I mean? Within like a minute. Because that's what they were sending all their little agents out to do is build that hedge fund. And so many of us were like, how could they possibly be making money paying these prices? Because they're in the red. There's no way that they're, getting enough rent. So I'm curious to see, because, the iBuy program from Zillow, it fizzled out quickly. It was a disaster from the get-go, but that fell out. So I'm kind of curious to see just how many of these big investment firms put a hold. I think that's what you're going to see in a way. I think you're going to see a shift in the big hedge fund national investors coming in. But for Middle Tennessee, we need that, you guys, because we need to keep some affordable housing for the people who are from here, who live here, who've always been here. And they're getting pushed out by the big guys who can make those big offers and turn them into rentals, because they typically do go for the more affordable housing style. I hate the fact that so many people that are from here have had to move, to all these surrounding counties because they simply can't afford to live here anymore.
That's right.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I'm happy for the equity in my house, but I'm not going anywhere for a while.
That's exactly. It's such a double-edged sword. Like on the one hand, as a real estate professional, I love my equity and I love, I definitely love to make money. That's the only reason I work 90 hours a week. But on the other hand, for my love of my fellow man, it's also nice to see that maybe things will shift just enough to give people some reprieve.
Andrew and I talk about this a lot. We meet with a lot of realtors just on our kangaroo side of things. And so we've noticed a lot of people jump into real estate in the past 3 years that are new agents because like everyone else, they saw an opportunity and jumped, and good for them for doing that. But like we say, the market is changing, and that group has never been through a market that might be what we would quote say is normal or, equalizing a little bit. And so what do you think it takes to be successful in a market where you have to negotiate and you have to be kind of doing maybe more work than what's been required the last couple of years?
It's so funny because we kind of touched on this in our personal conversation the other day when I was like, I can finally breathe and I can't wait to get with you on like starting to set up all of my social media stuff again. Because, for a while there, you couldn't do anything without getting knocked down by 5 buyers. And so I think it's going to do what it kind of did in 07, 08, 09, and 10. The agents that were only doing it just because they thought it was a quick money grab and they were just taking advantage of the market and they never really were going to make it, because I think it's something like less than 20% of the agents make it for more than 5 years. Because it's not for the faint of heart, you guys. I mean, how many careers do you know where you have to pay to do your job, and then you may or may not get paid for doing your job, and you didn't even do anything wrong, but something falls through and it doesn't close, and you just lost 30 days of your life and you don't get paid for it. It's a very unique career. So what I would say is, don't ever spend your money before it's actually in your bank account. I don't care if you've got 10 under contract. There is no way of knowing if even one of them is going to actually close. I learned that very early on. I'm like a squirrel with nuts, you guys. I have PTSD from the downturn. Like, no matter how much money I made, I was like, just pay off all your debt and save it, because it's going to turn back around, because it's just the nature of the beast. So I would say, learn now to be really good with your money and take advantage of this moment to do your business planning for next year, to get your systems and your database cleaned up and in order, evaluate what you want to do for next year. If you stay focused on working not only in your business, but on your business, which I think a lot of us got away from when we were so slammed, we just had to get through the day and do what we had to do to take care of the transactions. We stopped working on it. So that's what I would say is take the time to organize it, stay in it, don't count your money, and try not to get too freaked out, because it's ebb and flow in this business and it's going to pick back up. I would say that this is the time to evaluate too, are you ready for this, for your full-time always career? Because if this is your full-time always career and you're going to stay with it, then you'll figure out how to make it through these tougher months right now. And I do kind of feel bad for them, because they got shown like all the beautiful glam and glitz and glory of what real estate can be. And now it's like, oh my gosh, can I afford my electric bill this month? I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but I remember hearing that from people in my office in 08, like people having to, worry about those things. So I don't think it's going to get that bad ever again. I think we all kind of learned our lesson there, but I do think that a lot of the newer agents just need to kind of woosah in this moment and learn how to be better agents. Take your classes, do your CE, go do some learning seminars, and do your best to see it through, because it's a really phenomenal career if you can get through the scarier parts.
We have a friend that was on a couple weeks ago who is a financial wealth planner, and he said similar things to you, is like when he's working with realtors or anyone that's really a sole proprietor, anyone that's, managing their own small business, which a realtor is their own small business. That cash flow and cash flow planning was so important. Like, find a way to normalize that. So great if you brought in $200,000 this month. Like, what does that look like over 12 months? Yeah. Like, make sure you're looking at paying your bills and then like how you save your money and all those things. So it's a great answer.
Very consistent years for several years. It was like literally, I think it was like 15 million, 17 million, 18 million, 22 million. And then I think I'll hit like 25 million this year. So pretty consistent 5 years. You guys too, I have such PTSD from the downturn that I still like prepay all my bills. You know what I mean? Like, I'm prepaying my mortgage and if I have a great month, that's awesome. Pay off everything. And then keep that 6-month nest egg always, just in case, because you just never know. You just never know. So so many new agents get in and that money's flowing and they get all excited and it doesn't look like it's going to end. And then the next thing you know, you're just like, I have $1,000 left. Yeah. So.
Jackie, surely you've got some crazy stories. You've been doing this long enough, and maybe they're all about Rachel, and I'd be all right with that as well. But what crazy stories you got?
Do I have any crazy Rachel stories? No, not really. I think I was the craziest one during my Rachel transaction because I was the pregnant one. I have some really funny stories, actually. Let's see. Oh, I sold Satan's condo one time. That's what I named it. I named it Satan's condo because this guy had lived in it and not been paying on it. It was going to foreclosure. It was during the downturn. And so he hoarded up in it and with his cats, all of his cats, with no litter boxes. And they never went outside, apparently. And so when I went to list Satan's condo for this bank, you couldn't even get the cabinet doors open because of all of the cat feces that was like dripping down and like cat hair. It was so bad, so bad. So I went and did what I could. And we cleaned out what we could, you know what I mean? And then we kind of filled it up. Yeah.
That's what I said.
That's what I was like, can we just knock it down?
Yeah.
But it was a condo. If it was a single family, I really feel like they would have dosed it. So I go to show it. I open the door, you guys, it's been sealed. The smell hits me. I turn to puke off of the porch, knock the client off the porch, narrowly miss the other client with like projectile vomit. But I did sell it. And I showed a Russian brothel one time in Nashville. That was really interesting. I only knew it was Russian because of some of the art and stuff on the walls. But I walked up and there were bullet holes in the door and like cash and handguns laying around and all kinds of interesting things. Oh, and then there was the time that I couldn't get to the lockbox, so I decided to scale this fence, a wrought iron fence. And I slipped and got stuck on the fence by my belt loop and was just dangling like 4 feet in the air, just bouncing, trying to get my belt loop to break so that I could fall off the fence.
I mean, Jackie knows that I was going to be high maintenance. I told her like the day we met, I'm like, I have some standards and I'm going to be pretty uptight about those. But,
you knew what you wanted. That's what mattered.
I just didn't need to see a lot of things. I can walk in and be like, no. And they're like, but don't you? No, I don't want to see any of that. No. I can tell from the front door. I don't need to see this house.
Well, Jackie, thank you. We end up every episode with a local question of the day. Rachel.
The question is, what is the most underrated restaurant that you've been to in the Nashville area?
Ooh, underrated.
I would say it's in Murfreesboro, oddly enough. I would say it's Fresh Bite over on Thompson Lane. You wouldn't know it by the name. And I think that's why so many people overlook it, because I love Cuban food, cultural food, any sort. It's amazing. And it's in this little strip center. It's very unassuming. And I don't think people recognize it, but you should definitely give it a try.
I'm writing it down. I haven't been there. I don't even think I've noticed it, but that's not far from us.
So we got a comment from a listener that said, we only talk about things that are in Nashville or south of town. And so he said, will you please give us something north of town? So my underrated restaurant, it's going to be from north of town. So I went to 2 places. They're next door to each other in Hendersonville. Texas Meat Sweats which is a barbecue place. As a Texan, it was delicious. It was so good. And it's right next door to the 393 on Main, tiny little diner. It was so quaint and like it was so kind. Everybody there was so friendly. It's a sleepy little lake town. And I mean, everything about it was absolute perfection. So those are my two.
I'm writing that one down.
There you go.
I don't know that I have an answer. That's so bad because I came up with the question, but I'm trying to think of places that I've been that no one knows about. Maybe I'm just too trendy. I'm just like following all the trends.
I'm not even better.
So
We
trendy.
so many kids. We have kids. We don't get those good spots. We have to go to where the fries and chicken nuggets are on the menu.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I can tell you where every Chick-fil-A is located for like the 100-mile radius. But as far as like me getting to eat really good food, I mean, I do. I love Primrose, but I talk about that all the time. They have great food, and I feel like you don't know about it unless you're Andrew and I've told you about it, or you live in Murfreesboro.
You really don't know about it unless you're here. And I agree with you, though. It is a very underrated restaurant. Those pork belly potato skins.
Oh, come on.
So good. Yeah. And their steak tips are really good. And their roasted potato wedges are really good. And their cocktails are really good.
See, that's the only thing. I don't think they have alcohol at the Fresh Bite, but I never know because I only go there for lunch. So I'm not checking the alcohol menu quite yet. So
most days, yeah. Most days I'm not either.
Maybe after Satan's condo, but.
Jackie, thank you so much for coming on Kangaroost. It was a real treat, real pleasure to meet you. So thank you. Thank you. Great. If y'all will rate and review and also share this episode with your friends, learn all about Jackie and what she can do for you. Also, we have Kangaroost. You can sign up for that. $65 a month. It'll give you your month's worth of content. Share squares, captions, hashtags, all of it.
All the things.
All the things. And we have a discount code for that, Rachel.
Yes. First month 50. First month spelled out 50, the numbers. Gets you 50% off your first month.
Perfect. All right, y'all. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.